What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Do note that I am the 2018 Innovation Award winner from the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And this is a new conversation I'm bringing on to the Get Vocal platform. Do note this is being seen live video-wise on Get Vocal, on Periscope, and at YouTube. It is also being broadcast live audio stream-wise on Mixler. One of the conversations I've been doing for, it's coming up to 6 years now. Most Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we do an epic conversation called Do You Know What Time It Is? What it is basically is where we get Black male thought leaders to give opinions, talk, share, and opine about news stories and current events. We've had a break of it for the last few weeks, but I said, you know what, it's time to get it going again. And we are very blessed to have Melvin Lars on with us tonight, and he's going to give some thoughts. I'm going to add a little, I guess, foo-foo dust onto the conversation topics here, but we're going to make it happen. So, Melvin, thanks very much. And can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Dr. Vibe, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Melvin Lars. I'm CEO, founder of Brighter Futures Incorporated. We academic consulting. We do violence prevention and intervention. I'm a writer, publicist. I do poetry as well as dramatic writings. We also are following in the footsteps of Dr. Vibe, and we're going to start sharing some podcasts as well called the Nobody Asked Me Guy. So you guys have Dr. Vibe to thank for that if I bum.
No, it's not me. It's not I first say congratulations on the new conversations that you're going to be having. And are they going to be on a stated date and time every day, every week, or how often are you going to be having them on?
They are going to be weekly. Every Friday, we decided 7 p.m. Central Standard Time each Friday. And we are very fortunate to have lined up some very interesting guests, believe it or not, as we take off on this trek. Most people have heard of obviously Rosa Parks, Mrs. Elaine Steele, who was a person that was the right hand man to Dr. Rosa Parks, and who is a co-founder of the Raymond and Rosa Parks Institute, is going to be our guest on the 25th. We have one of our friends, Dr. Vibe, Ron Singh, is going to come on and share with us. As well as my personal physician, and Dr. Larry C. Daniels will be our first to get this coming Friday at 7 o'clock, and we're going to be talking about health issues, and how a lack of proper insurance affects and impacts the communities of those that are disenfranchised.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations. Looking forward to the launch of another conversation. I always like it when, and on the Periscope end, I Can Do Dave from Australia has jumped on. Dave, thank you so much. I still have to get an email to you for Glenn Barker, because I know you wanted to have a conversation with him. So I will do that. Let's get to it. We have a number. It's been a while since we've done it. Do you know what time it is? And of course, every day, every half minute, there are more epic conversations that come up. And again, if anyone has any comments on the Get Vocal platform, you can type them in. You can type them in on Periscope, and you can also type them in on the YouTube platform. So I hope that you enjoy the conversation, and let's get it going. First things first, Melvin, probably the hottest story going on in Black America right now is the whole R. Kelly situation, and especially this recent documentary called Surviving R. Kelly, making had a lot of ladies who have said they've been assaulted by him sexually, and it's went on for a number of nights. I didn't get a chance to see it myself. I just came off of hosting another epic conversation with a group of Black women talking about it, and they had very strong opinions about it. What are your thoughts in regards to the documentary, R. Kelly, etc., to start us off?
Well, Dr. Vibe, I have to say, man, it was absolutely appalling. There is no other way to put it. People many times will not just really be honest and and just express themselves as to what's really happening. Anytime you have a sadistic individual that perpetrates being a good guy, and under the radar, so to speak, when they're just simply being sadistic. A lot of conversation was brought up about the age of the young ladies, and please allow me to say respectfully, yes, that is critical, the age of the young ladies. But I don't think they really highlighted enough about his sadistic nature. They being the individuals that did the documentary, they allowed the young ladies to discuss their heartache, their frustration. They are really bad feelings about what transpired. Unfortunately, they were gullible because they all wanted fame. They wanted fame, so to speak. And in the South, Dr. Vibe, we don't enunciate things all the time correctly. And R. Kelly is known as Ara. Ara. So they unfortunately allowed Ara to apply what many of them said was his charm. They unfortunately drank the Kool-Aid of Ara, and they unfortunately sold themselves for the prospect of making $1. And the sad part about this whole scenario is the sadistic nature in which Ara showed himself to be. And all of the stuff in the article about psychologists and psychiatrists talking about hurt people, and that kind of thing. But it was just really horrific as to the way he treated these young ladies. And there is no argument. We all understand that an adult is an adult, and if a person is underage, they're underage, and you can't get around it.
I just want to further the conversation here that why do you, if these are allegations, but it seems that they appear to be true, do you feel that there should be more outcry from the Black environment about this? Because it seems that there's a number of people there staying quiet on this, and some of them past associates who have worked with R. Kelly. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Dr. Vibe, first of all, to answer your question, yes, I think there should be a much stronger outcry. Sadly, there's this don't snitch policy that we all pretend to put in place until it's someone close to us or someone that we love. So unfortunately, these young ladies are not being supported because it is supposed to be, well, don't destroy this iconic musical genius, etc. Many people have the attitude of, well, the girls knew what they were doing in the whole nine. And a lot of people are still upset about the situation with Bill Cosby. So you kind of have a microcosm of displaced loyalty, if I might use those words together, displaced loyalty to a horrific occurrence, to be quite honest, because the young ladies obviously are the victims in this entire process, albeit to every single one of them does admit that they were seeking fame and they were trusting R. Kelly to do the right thing. Sadly, they got involved with R. Kelly and involved in a situation and, had stars in their eyes. And sadly, he took advantage of them. So, yes, I feel there should be a much stronger outcry because, where do you stop the mistreatment of women? And because, see, to me, it's a much larger picture with all of the abuse and that kind of thing. Where do you stop it?
But it's not only where some, but this has gone on for so long, and it's, again, I didn't see the documentary. I've only heard and read about the documentary. And one of the things I have heard is that Mr. Kelly is planning to sue everyone involved with the documentary. Smart move or bad move?
I think it's a horrific move. I think he's taking a page out of 45's book by trying to intimidate those that are speaking against him, and I think that's very for that to be taking place. You may have lost the video, but I'm going to keep talking. I don't know what happened here, but unfortunately, it's very sad that these things are transpiring, because Kelly seems to have taken a page, if I can repeat myself, out of 45's playbook as to I know I've done all these things that I should not have done, but I'm going to sue you for telling on me, pretty much.
Does this reflect, and so, a number of Black women have spoken to me about this subject, a wider issue in the Black environment? This is something that is unfortunately somewhat common in Black environments.
I don't know that I can agree with those ladies to say that it's common. Although obviously I'm not a woman. I have mothers and sisters and a wife whom I love dearly, nieces that I love dearly. I don't know that we could say this was common as a whole when we say common. However, I'm sure this is not the only case or the only time that this has taken place. And as we know, universally, you have the whole fallout with the Catholic Church. All of these priests molesting these little boys and people looking the other way. And you have Harvey Weinstein and 45 and all these other people that do all kind of disrespectful, atrocious things to women and children. And the world just kind of looks the other way if these individuals have funds. So it's a sad scenario, really, for the American people as to how we have made money. You know, we all talk about being Christians, but how we have made money our God, as opposed to doing the things that we say we stand on, and that is having integrity and trying to do the right thing and treating people as we would wish to be treated.
Excellent. Have you had any conversations about this subject over the last little while, especially in regard to this documentary? Or have you been involved in any online conversations, and what are the nature of those conversations been like?
No online conversations, just with personal family members, and quite honestly, they have been very sensitive because, you know, as the male counterpart, I want to most definitely be sensitive to the issue, not only with the ladies that I've never met before, but with women that I know, and you know, they are obviously very sensitive about it, very passionate, very upset about it, and none that I've spoken with have ever been in a situation of that sort. However, a couple of them have been in domestic violence situations, and it brought back a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, and a lot of hurt, just for the whole domestic violence piece. You know, not even getting into the sexual exploitation and that kind of thing. So these conversations have been very sensitive, very, very sensitive.
Want to shout out to L.A. Wade, who is a great individual who just came off on a conversation that I produced called the All Our Own Show. Herself, Julie B, and Aisha K. Staggers. They just finished speaking about this and sharing about this topic in quite depth over the last hour and 15 minutes a little while ago. So I produced that epic conversation. And LA, if you have any comments, I see that you're on Periscope. You can certainly type them in, or you can come on the Get Vocal platform if you want to contribute on some of the other conversation pieces. Let's move on. Before the R. Kelly just sort of dominated the news, what the biggest news is going on in America's, again, politics. And there's many facets of politics, but one of the interesting facets was last Thursday, the House of Representatives in the United States, the new House came into being, and the Democrats are back. They are ruling in the House. And one of the interesting, well, I'll let you give us your thoughts on that. I'm going to bring a very interesting thought about diversity on the Democratic side versus the diversity on the Republican side in the House. But what are your thoughts about the new House of Representatives and what is going to go on with American politics on behalf of that?
Well, first of all, I'm excited about this new House of Representatives. And what I hope, Dr. Vibe, will go on is that all of these lovely ladies that have taken on the mantle of trying to help correct and rid ourselves of all this corruption, I hope that they don't become, I'm going to go negative for a moment. that they don't become corrupted themselves, that they are not excited about the dollars that will be thrown at them, that they do not fall into those traps that individuals set for them. As we know, politics is dirty, and people come to you with all kind of promises, and they attack your families, and they start searching your skeletons in your closets, and threatening to reveal things that you don't want the general public to know. But with that said, I'm extremely, extremely excited about the prospects and about seeing democracy actually start to go through a much greater process here in these United States. Because as we know, Dr. Vibe, conversation is plentiful in any place you look. However, when it comes to individuals actually following up on the conversation, that's when the trouble starts.
Do you feel, though, because the political scene is now even going to be more divided, are we just going to have gridlock like what's going on right now? The part of the federal government is closed and shut down?
Well, Dr. Vibe, I feel very strongly, first of all, that this is a jockeying for position. This is, this whole thing. And, I always tell you, read between the lines. This whole thing is to try to take Mueller's investigation off of 45. He knows now that he's in major trouble. He's always known he was in major trouble, but I guess they had enough people in their pockets that he could avoid actually having to deal with the trouble. So now you have new people coming in that are not yet in your pocket. So you have to create a diversion that's really strong enough to get people talking, to try to frighten people, etc. So what do? The first thing you do is you attack their welfare, their common welfare. People have to eat, they need places to live, and etc. So you make such a drastic move to pretend to be so upset about a wall. I mean, it blows me away. I love to tell you that I must have taken too many hits in the head playing football, but it just blows me away that people can't see that this is simply a diversion to try to get people to refocus on Mueller's investigation against 45. This is a move that he's doing for himself and those individuals that's in the bed with him.
Excellent. As we go on, I'd like to shout out Don Ellen Morris and Serena Wills for shouting out, watching this on Periscope and taking some time out of their positive, productive schedule to watch the conversation. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. Let's talk about the diversity in the House.
Okay.
And one of the interesting things that I noticed I'm going to do a pop quiz on it for you. So
go right ahead.
Okay, so
I better put my glasses on so I can cheat.
Okay. So the Republican in the House of Representatives, 30 years ago, there were 13 women in the Republican side of the House.
Yes.
How many women are in the Republican Party as of Thursday in the House?
Wow. The pop quiz definitely got me. They've only been talking about, I know there's more than one, but I'm just going to say this because I don't know the answer. They've only been talking about Cheney and her negative comments and her trying to support 45. But there were, if I'm not mistaken, I think like 13 Republican women, maybe. I may be a little off, but I think it was like number about 13 of them.
You are correct. So the point is, 30 years ago, there were 13 women in the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. 30 years after, there's still 13 women in the House for the Republicans. If you take a look at the picture of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, it's women, it's all different. There's Muslims, there's LGBTQ, there's blacks, there's whites. It's a rainbow, and it's almost like two different Americas.
Yes. Well, Dr. Vibe, people get angry when I say this, but it is two different Americas. But people that get angry the most are the other people of color, because for some reason, Doctor Vibe, people think simply by denying something changes the outcome, and we need to understand that just because you deny something, it does not change the outcome. We live in two Americas. It is being played out right before our eyes. It has always been played out. But when 45 got in office, then people felt empowered to really show how they really feel. So it's just being shown what it always has been, two Americas.
And I also, again, want to say thanks to LA. She is now watching officially on the Get Vocal platform. Again, LA, you want to make some comments? If you want to jump in, add the conversation, you're more than welcome to. What do you see for the rest of the 45 presidency with now the House Democrats, Senate Republican ruled? What do you see in the future?
I see 45 running for cover. I see 45 asking Putin for asylum, because I feel very...
You didn't go there.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I see 45 asking Putin for asylum, because I just feel very, very strongly, man, that people have really decided it's time for this guy to go. I mean, even those individuals that pretend like they still support 45, when you shut down a government, or when you start shutting down General Motors and all of these plants, and okay, now they can't eat. Now they can't send their children to these private schools. Now they can't go on vacations and drive their boats and their dirt bikes. Now you are angering your quote base. So now you will have some behind the scenes support to say, hey, this guy got to go.
But hold on a second.
Okay.
Hold on a second now. From all we hear or we see, the economy is doing better. Jobs are unemployment's at all-time lows. Record number of jobs created last month. So what is this, a shell game?
Because yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Can you say propaganda? Can you say propaganda? When you are having plants being closed, stores being closed, mom and shop places being closed, how can you elevate when you're decreasing? And you have jobs that people are constantly saying that they don't have the technological skills to fill. So who's filling all of these alleged jobs that are supposed to be being created? And if you right now, if Dr. Vibe and Melvin Lars are working 2 and 3 part-time jobs, they are counting us one person per job, when in fact we are the same 3 people. So we can't even feed our families with the one job. We can't afford insurance with the other job, and we can't go on vacation with the third job. We're just trying to survive just to keep our lights on and eating. Don't believe the hype. It's propaganda.
Do you know anyone that's happy that 45's in office? You must know some.
No, sir.
You don't?
Not one single one. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I don't want to get sued, so I can't call his name.
Don't.
But there is this young African-American gentleman that works for Verizon in Bossier City, Louisiana. And he is a huge 45 fan. He and I always have a good time because I love to school this young brother, and he loves to try to give me these little comebacks. And I constantly say to him all of the time, but the proof is in the pudding. You look, even though he's very fair-skinned, I said, you look just like me. So it is being said about you that you are draining the economy, and you are here in Verizon working as a technician. And all of your colleagues, except 2 of them, there were like about 8 people in there, I said, all of your colleagues, except two of them, are people of color. So all of you guys are educationally trained to be technicians for Verizon. But yet it is said that by 45 that you are draining on the economy. So, and I asked him very clearly, how can you sit with a clear conscience and say you support somebody that's saying you are draining on the economy and you're showing up at work every day and six of your colleagues in here all look just like you, and all he does is laugh. So sometimes I think he's just trying to antagonize me because he knows that 45 is not my friend.
No problem. So I'm going to bring it back to the whole area of the House of Representatives with,
Yes,
and not only with the diversity by demographic, there's a lot of diversity of thought in the Democratic Party right now. Do you feel
yes.
that Nancy Pelosi will be able to manage that, because there's a certain faction of the party that wants to impeach 45, where she's not saying that's not an important thing? Do you think they'll be able to, or think she'll be able to manage the diversity of opinions in the House from the Democratic Party?
No, I don't. It's going to be like a rodeo, a bull riding contest. That's the way I see it, Dr. Vibe. It's going to be like a bull riding contest because these ladies, you have the one mom, and that's why I said I put my glasses on so I can cheat as I was looking at the article. You have the one mom who ran on the platform of unity, whose son was murdered just for listening to his music. You have Native Americans, as you've already alluded to. You have Muslims, etc. And all of them have same but different agendas. You have Nancy Pelosi, who is part of that political machine. So you have those individuals that are saying it's not important to impeach 45 because in part they probably agree with some of the stuff he's saying, and they have to keep their neighbors happy and their family members happy because there is probably like the Civil War at some of these houses because they're torn. Some people want democracy and some does not. So I don't know. I think Pelosi, will have a difficult time trying to manage the process.
Do you think that the Democratic Party in the House at least will put a vote in to impeach 45?
Yes, I do. Now, I think that'll happen. And the reason I think that'll happen is because, again, he's running for Mueller. And he's going to have to ask Putin for asylum. He's running for Mueller. And everybody knows. See, Dr. Vibe, that's why I said be careful about the propaganda with the jobs and things of that nature. Everybody in the United States, be they pro or con 45, everybody knows that we've always had double standards in this country, regardless of what race you identify by, regardless of whether you are heavily melanated or less melanated. Everybody in the U.S. knows that we have two separate United States.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's move on to another conversation piece. Cashing checks, napping, more activities leading to police calls on Black people in 2018. We're doing our first, do you know what time it is, in 2019? So we can't let go of 2018 yet. And one of the stories that came about, especially for Black Americans, was being called by whites, by the police, or having police call on them by whites for very interesting things like cashing checks, napping in a school. What does that tell you? What those actions? What's going on in that United States of America? I'm living in Toronto. We're looking at you and going, your country going, what's going on? Calling the police for just living while Black?
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. You said it. Living while Black. And Dr. Vibe, that in and of itself is a sad scenario because at one time we were all led to believe that there were consequences for making false police reports. Now that's what we were led to believe as a country, is that there were consequences for that, either incarceration and or fines. However, it has become very difficult for that to take place. and you have individuals that are seeking their 15 minutes of fame because they know that they're going to be all over TV, they're going to be on social media, etc. So the hatred that's being expressed is a direct result of 45 and his cronies perpetrating superiority and pushing hatred. That's all it is. Because afraid of what? Somebody's cashing a check. And what's the point? Someone standing in a hotel lobby. What's the point? Someone calls the police station themselves asking for help, and the police comes out and shoots them. These things of that nature. So, and then he gets to hide behind his badge and say he feared for his life. But everyone have on record that a family called, someone called, asking for help at this specific location. You get to that location, you find women and small children and a man. Somehow the man winds up dead, and nobody has an explanation other than I feared for my life, but I called you. So it's just, again, it's the double standards in America, Dr. Vibe. Don't believe the hype.
Well, you sound like you're Chuck D's father.
Is that right?
There you go. Don't believe the hype. Or Chuck.
Don't believe it.
Oh, you want to be Chuck D's father or Flavor Flav's father?
Oh, hey, I'll take Chuck D.
Okay. Good stuff.
I'll take Chuck.
That is good stuff. Then if you look at all these things as we go into 2019, what is, and I'm just going to hold off because this may come up a little bit later in a further conversation piece. Let me just check something here in my notes. Okay. We'll roll it into our next conversation piece.
Okay.
I'll parking lot it. Next thing, 2019 list of things that Black people don't want to talk about. What are things?
I found that really funny.
Yeah, what do Black people in America don't want to talk about? Did you find any of those things relevant? Did you think it was totally offbeat piece? What are your thoughts?
No, Dr. Vibe, I found them extremely relevant because, as you probably know by now, I'm a person that speaks my mind, and I have conversations all the time because remember I told you I've been labeled an activist all of my days. And when you have people that are in denial, I said in our earlier conversation is that for some reason people think if they deny a situation or a circumstance that it will render that situation or circumstance non-existent. And sadly, when I looked at the list, the piece that you had given us to check over, about the Black on Black crime, that caught me early. It drives me nuts. The first time, I guarantee you, in here in America, you can speak to just almost any person about a police murder, and the first thing they'll go, but we need to stop killing each other. What does that have to do with the T in Texas? That's another conversation. If I put on a badge and I walk outside my house and I murder somebody, what does that have to do with white on white crime? I murdered somebody. I need to be dealt with. So that always catches your attention. And then all of the stuff about too many children live in single parents' home. Well, Dr. Vibe, I wrote a piece on that, by the way. And we have always been reared by our mothers. In the less melanated cultures, you see that many of the, especially in the South, the kids are reared by melanated moms, not by less melanated men and not by less melanated women. They come in on the back burner. So when you talk about, the society talks about single parent homes, any intelligent individual, any sane, I should say, individual, have enough sense to know that any household is much better off with both parents being there to lend guidance. But to elude from the reality that the mother could not be having those babies, because as far as I know, according to the Bible, there's only been one immaculate pregnancy. So in order for her to have children, there had to be a male someplace. In order for her to continue to have male companionship, there must be a male someplace. So I think this single parent home thing has really gotten the best of us because we have bought into it. I will not go so far as to say that it's a myth, but I will say that it's far have gotten out of control. Slavery was a long time ago. No, slavery is still present. When you have on the books right now here in America in the Constitution is that they can put young men, they can incarcerate young men. And if you've broken the law and you haven't done this and haven't done that, then your body, etc., can be used to do work just as a slave would be. That's in our Constitution. So slavery has never left. Or you have to be careful about what you say around less melanated people because you don't want to offend them and possibly lose your employment. So slavery has never left. Then we get on to our piece, hard work and education. Sure, that's important. We all know that that's important. However, there are story after story after story of people of color being much more qualified educationally, experience-wise, etc., and still are passed over for the job. They're still passed over for the promotion and the whole nine. So that's a conversation, again, that Black people try to ignore. Then when you get down to the part here, as when you were talking about Asian Jews who live in Chicago. Well, I don't know much about what's happening in Chicago, other than the fact that I know across the country in America that people don't talk about, is when Asians and other people come to this country, they do get special government subsistence in starting businesses, in getting assistance, etc. That's what even our less melanated brothers don't want to talk about. They get special loans and that type of thing to start business and open up these little kiosks and those kinds of things that people do not want to talk about. As far as Chicago, I don't have a lot of information on Chicago other than the fact that I'm sure that it's probably just a small microcosm of what happens here in these great United States.
So let me understand correctly. Do you feel that the points that the author of this post made, do you agree with them? Do you not agree with them?
Very valid. Very valid.
So why?
They're very valid.
So why do you feel that a number of Black Americans don't want to talk about these subjects?
Because I honestly feel, Dr. Vibe, may I share with you this way? It has been my experience that in our unspoken narcissistic nature is I don't want to lose the job that I have. I may not get another one. And so can I call that narcissistic? Not really. A lot of it is about self-preservation. So I don't want to offend individuals that if they may fire me from a company, but if I go next door, they may have made the telephone call and said that, I'm a malcontent, I'm a troublemaker, that kind of thing. So there are a lot of reasons that go unspoken. People are afraid, again, to lose their jobs. They are afraid that their children won't be employed because of something they may have said or done. And that's why I went back to the early piece, as I said, slavery has never left America. There are all kinds of stipulations and that kind of thing that we still, and dare I use the word labor, that we still labor under to this very day, 2019. So a lot of people of color do not want to discuss these things for fear. Let me just lay it out there. For fear that some of their less melanated counterparts may say something on the job to their employer that may get them dismissed. They may not be able to get the loan. So there's still a lot of unspoken economical fear. Maybe I should share in that facet because of a lot of the economical fears.
Understood. So I'm going to tie in. I was going to bring this conversation piece up in the last story, but I'll bring it up now. So looking at the last two stories that you provided comments and thoughts on, what is the state of Black America starting off in 2019, and what is the state of racial relations in America at the beginning of 2019?
Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. It is pitiful for many reasons. However, let me cite it's pitiful because people that look like me are vastly divided because of not wanting to anger individuals that employ them, not wanting to anger individuals that may or may not offer them business loans or loans to purchase homes or loans to purchase houses, etc. Individuals that they don't want to anger. They feel that may cause them some unpleasant situations, and people do not want to be honest about that because I've heard more than one time. So if I get fired at, I'll just say American Textiles, then and the word always ain't nobody black own no company, so they can't hire me. So there are a lot of unspoken conversation that is not public, but is held privately in individual homes and individual settings, in churches and things like that. And until there become more minority-owned businesses that can employ people that are of heavy melanation, until it becomes people are held more accountable for their actions that are less melanated, then it is going to continue to be issues in 2019 and beyond.
Not painting a rosy picture.
Well, you know what, Dr. Bob, sadly, roses have thorns too, So roses have thorns too.
Point well taken. Point well taken. Let's go on to our next conversation piece, one that you actually wrote. And
okay.
It was a very good article, and I thought I'm happy that you're going to get a chance to share and elaborate on it during our epic conversation. And the name of the article is "How to Raise Black Boys to Men in the United States."
Yes, and first of all, let me thank you for thinking enough of the article that I was fortunate enough to write to us have discussed on your show, and I'll jump right into it. I've touched on part of it because our boys have to understand this: is that we live in two Americas. They must understand that because you go to school and you sit next to individuals that are less melanated than you still are not accepted in the same vein as he. And I've had a lot of young men to ask me, well, Ms. Lars, how can you say that? I have Miss So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, and they're really nice. I said, yes, that is not my premise, is that people are not nice. My premise is always is this. In Dr. Vibe, I have to speak to them many times and explain it to them through athletics. I said, my premise is this. If you and I go out for a position on a football team, what's the first position you are offered? Oh, a defensive back or a wide receiver? I said, why is the discussion never about quarterback until maybe there's a crisis? So I start with that analogy. Secondly, our boys have to understand that fear of men of color is real by a lot of people. And the reason that fear is real by a lot of people is because they fear retaliation. When you look around and you see a lot of black men saying, hey, I'm sick of your politics. I'm sick of you. I'm not going to allow you to bully me anymore. They don't know who that black man is talking to specifically. So they want to make sure that it's not them, and them being the less melanated individuals. Our black boys have to understand that. They have to understand that education is critical and imperative because we've already talked about education and hard work. So if you don't eliminate the excuse, or the excuses, I should say, for being gainfully employed, then you have no legs to stand on. You say, okay, well, he didn't hire me because I was black. And the next question always is, what are your qualifications? And when you say, my name is Scott, I'll take anything you got, you're done. So your argument is a wash. No one is listening to you. No one is trying to employ you. You are seen as an individual that did not have the inner integrity, the inner strength to get up, make something happen for yourself, and become a viable part of a civilized society. So I'm not ever going to discuss with you if I'm less melanated, that the young man that is less melanated can be less qualified academically and experience-wise, but he looks like me. I own the company. So I feel like I have a right to hire him because I know his dad. I know his granddad. He's just a kid. And the mistakes that he made were not as horrific as the one that you made. So it's very difficult sometimes for us to get our young men of color to understand that no matter how much people try to deny that there is no difference, all you have to do is observe what happens. And you immediately know there's a perfect example, Dr. Bob. Please let me say this. Playoff football game today. Lamar Jackson and Phillip Rivers. The sportscasters spent the whole game berating this young man, wanting the other guy to be in there, and how great Phillip Rivers is. When the young man showed his heroics and almost brought them back to a victory, you had to pull comments out of them, the positive comments. Whereas when you watch other ball games, and I'm just being honest, when these situations where the young men are less melanated, you can't make them say negative things about the less melanated. Oh, well, he doesn't have this around him. And the offensive line needs to block better. And the receiver should have caught that. I mean, there's a litany of excuses. But when it's a melanated quarterback, it's always, well, he didn't release the ball fast enough. He couldn't go through his progressions. And he should have got. So that's what we have to teach our kids in life, is that you are seen through a different lens, whether you or your parents like it or not. Last thing I'll say about that, Dr. Vibe, we say that America is made up of, according to statistics, let's say 23 million people of color. And you show Michael Jordan, you show LeBron James, you show Shaquille O'Neal. You see what I'm doing? That list is getting very short, isn't it? So out of 23 million people, you try to put up people like Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and then say, see, you can be successful. So it's a game, Dr. Vibe. It's a game. You don't mind Michael Jordan making $1 billion. He's one person. But you have 22.9 other people of color that's barely making minimum wage. Now, that may be an exaggeration, but that's the point people don't seem to get. If you walk into, first of all, in the little town that my wife came from, there's approximately 4,000 to 5,000 people in her little hometown. The employment rate here is not good at all. The average income is less than $12,000 a year in 2019.
Go away.
Now, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The average income is less than $12,000 a year, 2019. Now, that is being averaged out with people in this community that work at the hospital over there at $200 and some thousand a year, $300,000 a year, that kind of thing. But the average income in this little town is about $12,000. Now, what is equal about that? How can someone convince me that I have an equal chance of surviving when my parents start off in poverty? The best they can do is maybe get some food on the table. Then they are maligned every day and embarrassed if they have food stamps, because now they're being seen as people that's living off the government. No one talks about how the government pays farmers subsistences for not growing crops because 45 screwed stuff up so badly. No one talks about the bailouts that were made for AIG and all these other companies, which is nothing but welfare. Nobody talks about the $23 million payout that after they closed the General Motors program down, that they found to pay the CEO. Nobody talks about that. Now, can you imagine just the bonus that this guy is going to get? Everybody in this little town would be wealthy. That's the issue that people of color do not want to talk about. That's the issue that our less melanated brothers refuse to talk about. Because when they start talking about it, then it's going to start showing all the people that are less melanated, that look just like them, that are in the same boat.
Want to say hello also on Periscope to Real Nick Barrett. Also want to say hello on the Periscope. I said that already. On the Get Vocal platform to Curtis and to Michael and to, is it Sugar Booger? And also to Bobby. I want to get your,
guys.
I want
Yes,
to get your thoughts here. And if Michael and Curtis want to jump in, I'd appreciate it. How is it more challenging now for a young black man to grow up in America compared to when you were a young black man?
It's more challenging now, Dr. Vibe, compared to when I was a young black man, because when I was a young black man, you didn't have a lot of African-American men actually trying to go to college. There were basically a handful of us that really pushed going to college. There were basically a handful of us that really became, how can I say this, professionals in the areas in which we went into academically. But now, since there's been so much push and talk about education, which I thoroughly agree with, it is becoming saturated, especially here in the South. If you go to graduations in the South, Dr. Vibe, at LSU, Grambling State University, Southern University, etc., you will see 300, 400, 500 kids graduating at a time. So now the competition is much stiffer. And as you asked that, during my time, most of the guys at that time were like a lot of young kids now. You know, you look for that professional chance to be a professional and make a whole lot of money, or factories were open, automobile places were open. There were a lot of things you could do to become employed. So going to college wasn't as important as we were taught. But now, as being an educator and working with young men all of the time, I constantly hear, I'm glad you asked me that question, but you don't understand. You don't understand. I said, yeah, we understand, because we already know what you're up against, because you are in the workforce, you have the education. And so saying that you are unqualified can no longer be used as an excuse not to hire you. So that's the major difference, is that the young men of today are much educated in many, many more numbers than they were. Let me put it this way, are formally educated in many, many more numbers than they were during the old days when I was being formally educated. So the competition level has risen.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy, as always, to have Curtis.
Curtis,
multimedia producer of a great conversation called Mediascope, hosted by Dr. Tachi, which is on Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. Well, 5 p.m. early for the is that the Instagram, and then for 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time for Facebook Live and Periscope. As always, Curtis, thanks so much. And I'm glad you jumped in, and I had a feeling you would. How do you feel it's more challenging now raising a black boy today than it was when you were a young black boy?
Wow, that's a great question. Dr. Vibe, I grew up with a mom, or was raised by my grandmother, actually. And they both loved some Curtis, boy. They loved me, and it showed. And so, and I really,
Of course.
and I'm definitely, hey man, I'm definitely appreciative of that. But my great grandmother, she was a go getter, man. She was the every project had a candy lady. She was a candy lady, Miss Crump. And anyways, but I loved her dearly, and so she was a go getter, man. She didn't wait around for family and folks to, she had late in life, she ended up falling and breaking her hip. So anyway, so she was kind of, just end up just being kind of immobile, if you will, not being able to move around a lot. And so she ended up starting a candy store, but she worked for a Jewish family. And in the event, so she started a candy store, and she kept me moving, and I love my grandmother. We, she kept me busy, man, and so I have not really been outside of just not knowing what to do, because even as I grew up with my mother raised me, I grew up with my grandmother, but my mom was a single mom for many years. She was a go-getter, type A personality, and it's just like, so I don't know what it's like not to think, if that makes any sense.
Understood.
So
Understood.
and so I don't know. It's a great question, Dr. Vibe, but like I said, I'm trying to answer the best way I can, because, like I said,
No.
I don't know how to really, because I've always been thinking, just get the job done, because I'm the oldest of five. And so I helped
Yep.
my mom raise the kids, change the diapers. So I was the one getting up, boiling the milk for it was a glass bottles at the time. So I put the glass bottle in the water and inside the pot, boil it to make sure the milk was hot, tested on my wrist, so change diapers of my youngest brothers and sisters. So, the oldest of five, I can remember making phone calls, to help my mom out with bills and things, because I was working a job as well. And so I was helping my mom out. So I remember making phone calls, or maybe even just calling to get some kind of extension on a phone bill. My mom, or kind of a utility, my mom would say, well, okay, who did you talk to? Oh, I didn't get their name. Okay, no problem. Call back, get their name, and make sure get the name, find out what time, write down the time you spoke to the person. So she was very thorough like that. And so there was a time where, or several times where she was, trying to, help me, grow up and be a man and be responsible. And so in doing that, my job was to take a sheet of paper and have the pertinent information on that piece of paper, as if I was filling out a job application. Excuse me. So when I went to that particular job or that business to fill out the application, it was just a matter of transferring the information from the document that I put together and putting on the application. So my thing was, my mom was on her way to work. She dropped me off. The intention was to drop me off at a starting point, and I just work from point A to point B and then come back, whatever. I needed to have on another separate sheet of paper, I needed to have the person who I spoke to, or their name, their title, and the follow-up information. He said to take back on Tuesday, whatever. And part of my challenge was I would always forget my wallet. And so my mom, just being a mom, and just, trying to help me, prepare me for real life situations. She said, we'd get in the car, and she said, so you have your paper, you got your information, whatever. I said, yep. I carry a manila folder with the information on one, and then a blank sheet on another sheet of paper, title with the information on top. And I needed to have, so much information. So we be en route to get to my point A, where she was going to drop me off, and we were just talking and laughing. And then next thing you know, she said, so you got your wallet? I said, oh, I forgot my wallet. Oh, no problem. She pulled over to the side. I end up having to walk back to get my wallet and walk back to the place where she was going to drop me off, which was going to be my point A, and had to fill out that information. And, there would probably call it child abuse. But man, I'm trying to tell you, man, I am truly thankful, man. I am truly thankful for my mom for that, man, because my grandmother was no different. She was a hard worker, and and so in trying to answer your question, man, do I think they have it easy? I I kind of do, man, because I say that, and here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. I say that because a lot of what I've learned, my background is accounting. I don't have a college degree, but my background is in accounting. I did accounting for major firms, big three accounting for major firms, and I was an accountant for like 12 years. I was a flight attendant for I worked in the airline industry for about 15 years. I was a flight dispatcher, so I was what they call a pilot on the ground, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to do a lot. I'm grateful for that. But it all started because I wanted it. I wanted it, and I kind of liken myself, and I think a lot of other brothers. I'm not the only one. With the gentleman Chris Darden.
Yep.
Whereas that, he was going through a dire situation, and probably like many of us have gone through, but he did not let it stop him. And it wasn't about getting jealous of someone. It was like, wait a minute. I haven't read his book, so I just know of the movie, and I know a lot of times the movie differs quite different from the book, But
Right.
in any event, so at least in the movies, from what I remember, he said to the gentleman, "How did you get that?" He asked a question, and so I think that a lot of our brothers and sisters, we are intimidated by our counterparts. As Brother Melvin said, the non-melanated folks, we're intimidated by them. And I think for me, and again, I grew up with them, man. I grew up with a lot of non-melanated folks, and I was the butt end of a lot of jokes because I was coming from the city. I spoke differently, and part of the reason why I speak the way I do now was because I was laughed at. So I needed to figure out how to fit in quickly. And so I think just sometimes we just have to. I don't know, man. I think God. I'm certainly a believer in God, man. But I think God allows things to happen for a reason, man. He allows. He even allowed the children of Israel to be captive, to go into captivity in Babylon. Right. He allowed it, but it was a time that, and he says, even in the scripture said, and it's not verbatim, that the more you fight this thing, you're gonna lose if you fight it. But if you subject yourself to it, know that there's a time that you're gonna come out. You will come out. It's no different from when the children of Israel left Egypt. There was a time that they were subject to the authority of the Egyptians. And I think a lot of times we as brothers and sisters, man, we fighting something that we have not taken time to understand first. First, you got to understand this thing. You can't win a game if you don't know the rules.
Understood.
I mean, you can be upset all you want, and I'm not, Ken. I'm not. I mean, I love my brothers and sisters truly, but I'm not advocating anything different, But spoken, hopefully, in compassion, is that a lot of times, man, we yes, it hurts to see our brothers and sisters die and the different things have gone through and the injustice, man. I'm completely passionate about that. I get it. I get it, man. To see another brother die and I don't know who he is. Yes, that hurts any parent, any father, whether you're connected with them or not. And, it's painful. The sisters too. But I think sometimes, man, it's like the more you submit to something, whatever that might be, the more you can learn from it. And then God will himself will provide a time for you to come out. But they're not winning. I think we feel like we've been under for so long, and we have. We've been the underdogs for so long, man, but in truth, they're not winning. The sleeping giant that we have been, we waking up. But you can't wake up fighting. You can hate the way you've been done in regards to how they've been treating us. But if you don't learn from it and come out with the compassion and be able to rule with that compassion, if you don't come out like that, you are going to repeat it. And then it becomes a cycle of waiting for them to come back on top. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a cycle.
Yep.
And I just think that it's just so much more to this fight. And we have to really, there's nothing wrong with submitting.
Well, Curtis, thank you for adding some serious. No, that's good because you've just given me about 3 conversation topics.
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot.
No, don't be sorry. I think it's absolutely.
That was great, Curtis.
That was fantastic.
That was good.
And just want to share some things here. At Sheldon Eakins came on Periscope. I Can Do Dave from Australia said, since the 1980s, we've been sold the myth that only 3% of any group will make it to the top. If we believe this, then we do ourselves a disservice. He also says, high-performing individuals like I'm watching here are proof that we can get to the top. If we believe we can and trust in a higher power, we can rise. Compassion and empathy are the keys. And he's also saying Curtis is making a lot of sense to me. And that's from Dave. I Can Do Dave from Australia.
Absolutely.
Well, we are going to end this conversation here because there's going to be multiple conversations. And I would suggest follow Dr. Vibe or look at the Get Vocal platform because probably when I get off this tonight, I'll be already booking more conversation topics just on what Curtis said. Just on what Curtis said, there are about 2 or 3 conversations that I know I have to host now that have to be put out on these various platforms. I'd like to say thank you to Black Male Thought Leader Curtis and Black Male Thought Leader Melvin. Curtis, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go? You can locate me on Facebook at Curtis Brooks Media Productions on Facebook. Typically, that's kind of where I hang out at. So that's I'm okay. Okay. And multimedia producer extraordinaire. If you want some help with that, there's the man for the job. Melvin Lars, where can people touch base with you?
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Vibe. Brother Curtis, it's great to finally connect with you, brother.
Likewise.
Listen, thank you, sir. Dr. Vibe is much easier for them to contact me through my website, www.dyingonmyfeet.com. And once they get to the website, then there are multiple outlets there that we can be contacted. So I look forward to hearing from them. And Dr. Vibe, let me invite them. Again, Curtis, thanks to Dr. Vibe, he's talked me into doing some of this stuff. So January the 11th, January the 18th, and January 25th, I'll be on with some guests right here on Get Vocal. Okay. And so, guys, we all of that to Dr. Vibe. You know, Curtis, as Dr. Vibe kick us off, I have to say to this brother from my heart is that he's very important to me because it makes sense when you have people supporting and encouraging other people. Absolutely. And that is Dr. Vibe. That brother encourages and supports other people, man. And he's my kind of people. That is why he don't know this yet, Curtis. So don't tell him. But that's why I make a point of anytime he is doing the do you know what time it is show, or he's doing the Saturday morning show, or whatever he's doing, man, I'm always trying to be there to support this brother because he is a phenomenal brother. Absolutely. Well, I thank you for the kind words. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. And as I said, I'm very happy that you're launching your own journey. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to, it's not all about me. I want to just provide the platform to encourage because it's there's room for everybody. So let's fill it up. Right? Yeah, but know this. You're not getting rid of me. I mean, do you know what time it is, brother? I'm still right here. I didn't say that. I just said, hey, I want you to do your own thing too. It's very important. Before I give all my contact information, I just want to see. I like to just shout out people who came in. I Can Do Dave from Australia, at Sugar Booger, who was first on Get Vocal. Then she came on Periscope, invited a bunch of followers. Thank you so much, Sheldon Eakins. Thank you so much.
Also at Real Nick Barrett, who I believe is also from Australia, at Flo M. Bernard, at LA Wade 6. Thank you so much. On the Get Vocal side, thank you, Bobby. I know, thank you, Michael. Also, thank you, Gabe, for stopping by late. Now, all the various places you can find out about Dr. Vibe. If you want to listen to replays of my conversations via audio, the best place to go to is the website, the drvibeshow.com. You can also listen to replays at Stitcher Radio, Tuned In Radio, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Selected audio replays are available at thegoodmenproject.com, WJMS Radio out of New York, and Mile High Radio out of Denver, Colorado. If you want to watch replays of my video conversations, best place to go is YouTube. Go to the search engine and put in the space, DR period space, VIBE space, SHOW, the Dr. Vibe Show. That's where you can catch me video-wise. I'm a certified empowerment coach, presidency of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communications. If you'd like to do a complimentary session with me, please reach out to me via email, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com, Twitter at drvibeshow, or go to my website, click on the top where it says Contact the Dr. Vibe Show, and you can send me an email or an audio message right from the website. Upcoming stuff with Dr. Vibe. I will be on a panel in February talking about how Black fathers can love Black sons. And at the end of February, I'm going to be leading a panel discussion at a National Fatherhood Conference in Ottawa, Canada. So there's some things coming up on the pipeline. There's stuff coming up. Then I took a little break over the holiday season, and more epic conversations are coming up. So follow me on Twitter, and you will find out, as we say, what to go on. Like to end off with these things. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. After that, block assumptions, and then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good. Good night, everybody.
Good night, man. You guys take care.